Okay, let's talk about something that's happening right now, probably in your own neighborhood, maybe even in your own family. It's a quiet revolution, and it's all about a role that sooner or later is going to touch every single one of us. We're talking about caregiving.
And this quote, wow, it just hits you, right? It's from an expert in aging ministry, Richard Gensler Jr., and he just lays it out so clearly. This isn't something that happens to other people. This is a universal human experience. There's really no escaping it. We all fall into one of these four categories.
So it really makes you ask yourself, doesn't it? Which one are you right now? Because as soon as you see yourself on that timeline, the whole conversation stops being some abstract issue and suddenly it gets very, very real.
And here's the thing, this really personal journey is happening against the backdrop of a huge, and I mean huge, invisible crisis. It's a quiet revolution that's being driven by a shift in our population that we've never seen before in all of human history.
I mean, just let that sink in for a second. For the first time ever, we have more seniors than young children on this planet. This isn't just a blip on the radar. This is a fundamental change in what our world looks like. And that has massive consequences for who's giving care and who's going to need it.
So what does that actually look like on the ground? Well, let's take Canada, where this data comes from. Right now, 1 out of every 4 people is an unpaid caregiver. We're not talking about professionals here. We're talking about a husband, a daughter, a friend, a neighbor.
And that 1 in 4 ratio? Well, it adds up to 13.4 million people in Canada alone. Just to put that into perspective, that's more than the entire populations of Quebec and British Columbia combined, all of them providing care without getting paid for it.
And the economic value of all this unpaid work? It's absolutely staggering. By 2035, it's projected to be worth $128 billion a year. You know, we talk about them being a safety net, but let's be real, they're not just a safety net. They are the system.
So here's where it gets really tricky. We're basically heading straight into what you might call a perfect storm. On one hand, the demand for care is just going up, and the kind of care people need is getting way more complex. But on the other hand, the pool of family caregivers is actually shrinking. And the caregivers themselves, well, they're getting older too. Okay, so we've looked at the big society-wide numbers, but now let's zoom in, let's get personal. Because behind every single one of those statistics is a real person, carrying a massive weight, and a lot of the time, they're doing it in complete silence. This is what it feels like. Just look at that top number. An unbelievable 87% of caregivers say they feel lonely. Think about that. They spend their days surrounded by need, constantly giving of themselves, and yet they feel totally alone. And when you add in all the anxiety and the hit to their own mental health, you really start to see the hidden cost of it all.
And that's the painful irony, isn't it? These caregivers are everywhere. They're our colleagues at work, they're our neighbors, they're in our communities. We see them all the time, but we don't actually see their struggle. It's like they're hiding in plain sight, carrying this invisible burden.
And, it goes even deeper than just being stressed or tired. There's this unique spiritual weight. It's this creeping sense of being abandoned, of totally losing who you are as a person. And for people caring for someone with a condition like dementia, gosh, it involves this incredibly painful kind of grief, where you're mourning someone who is still physically right there in front of you.
Okay, so this all sounds pretty heavy, I know. But here's the turn. This crisis, it's not just a problem we have to solve. It's actually a profound opportunity. It's a chance for our communities, especially faith communities, to really step up and stand in the gap where formal systems just can't reach.
This quote really nails it. Tight-knit communities, they just have this built-in advantage. Government programs are absolutely essential, don't get me wrong, but they can't manufacture relationships. Real, meaningful support so often comes from the people who already know you, who are already in your life.
And that brings us to this core idea, a model called seniors helping seniors. And what I love about this is how it completely reframes how we see older adults. Instead of just seeing them as people who need care, it sees them as this incredible untapped resource, a force of people with the time, the empathy, and the lived experience to support their peers.
And this is exactly why this peer-to-peer idea is so powerful. I mean, think about it. Wisdom isn't something you read in a book. It's earned. Empathy is forged in shared experience. A retired nurse who's seen it all can offer a kind of comfort that a textbook just can't. A widow who's walked this same path can just sit with someone who's at the beginning of that journey, and that's a kind of ministry you just can't replace.
All right, so this all sounds great in theory, but how do you actually do it? Well, this isn't just a pie-in-the-sky idea. There are some very real, very practical ways any community can put this into action. So let's get into the how.
So here's how you can make it happen. It's not just one big program, it's a bunch of different things working together. First, you create small support circles so people feel like they belong. Then, you organize teams to do practical stuff, bring a meal, offer a ride, mow a lawn, just to give caregivers a break. And this is crucial. You have to talk about it openly, to normalize the conversation so people don't feel so alone. You can even run workshops to prepare people before a crisis hits. And finally, you can train seniors to just be that listening ear for their peers. See, each one is a real, achievable step.
And that brings us right to the end, to this final, challenging thought. That demographic wave we talked about, it isn't coming anymore. It's here. The crisis is happening right now, in our homes and in our communities. So the only question left to ask is a personal one for all of us. Who is going to show up?